many people visited your website and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, so I think now I've shared my part. So now I will hand over first to Kaiser to share more about his hands-on tutorial on the basic features of streamlit. Yeah.
Hey, hi guys, hope you all can hear me. I'm just gonna share my screen first. Can you see? I can see, right? Okay. All right, so hi, I'm Kaiser. I'm year 2 DSA. I have some experience with startups, and right now I'm interning at IBM as an AI engineer. So today I'm just gonna go through like some of the very basic things about Streamlit, and then at the end I'm gonna show you how to create a ChatGPT interface in under 40 lines of code. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you have most of the necessary setup. You have your packages installed. If not, then you can always do that after the video or rewatch the video basically. Um, so one of the best practices in Streamlit is to have your browser side by side with your IDE. That way, when you edit something in your code, right, since Streamlit automatically updates, um, you can see live changes happening right away. So right now, I'm just going to run this blank, the basic.py file, using Streamlit run. Okay, wait for a second. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so what happens here is basically Streamlit will run right away, and you will start basically reading what's in your code at all times. And so let's do something very basic. Let's just display something. And the main way to display something is through st. Right? Wait, let me import my packages first. Yeah. Okay. As you can see, whenever you make any changes in your source file, right, since it's running, whenever you edit your code, Streamlit will rerun your entire Python script from top to bottom. It means that you don't have to manually start and restart your Streamlit every time. You can just edit something and have it rerun. Yeah. Okay. Then let's just uh go through the basic things first. The most basic thing you can do in Streamlit is basically just call stwrite. And what stwrite is, what it does, it writes like a generic you can write a generic object into your Streamlit file. Here I just click always rerun because I want my code to keep updating. Yeah. Yep, and you'll see that your whatever's rendered here using stwrite will appear right away. So you don't have to do anything fancy. You can also do things like st dot title, for instance. Yeah. And you see that once you finish your line, Streamlit will render your title in like the title format. You can do things like subheader too, subheader. And then you do it in a slightly smaller font. And it's not just limited to Word. You can basically write any sort of objects. Okay, let's try to write a data frame. Sorry about autocomplete. Okay. Right. So what we have here is we basically just wrote a very simple pandas data frame, then with the columns and rows. And you see I'm passing here a data frame object, and it can still render. So Streamlit decides for you how to render your object for you if you're just using st, right? It's like basically the general all-purpose function. But Streamlit also has this thing called magic function, which means that if Streamlit sees a variable or literal value on its own, it will automatically write that to your app also using st, right? So let's say I define a new data frame here using pandas.dataFrame. You can see I defined it without any errors, but there you can only see the first data frame here that was generated. But if I just call df, Streamlit will know that I want to display this object and will display it for me also. So in that case, you don't have to call st every time. And there are other data specific functions like st.dataframe and st.table that you can call. So I think one question you might have is why would I use all these other functions if I can just use st.write or use magic function? Well, sometimes you want to modify how your table looks or how your data is presented in a way. And st.write doesn't give you that freedom of functionality. For example, let's try to draw a data frame. Let's try to do some visual modifications to a certain data frame. So I'm just going to define a new data frame here. And yeah, basically what's happening here is that I'm creating a random number column from 10 to 20, and I'm giving the columns the header of which row it belongs to. So let's just look at the data frame now. You can call it again with data frame st.write or just type in data frame. So it looks like this. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention that one good thing about Streamlit is that the objects that you render, the user can do a lot of cool things with it also. So for example, I can download this table as a CSV if you want to show it to users, or I can even like inspect or search across my entire CSV. If your CSV is very big, for example. Okay. But now let's say I wanted to highlight the maximum value that was in each column. I can do something like this. So I call st.dataframe, which is again the specialized form of um calling a data frame, the modification. And so what I'm doing here is I'm I'm applying a style to this data frame, and I'm telling it to highlight the maximum value along the 0th axis. And what that means is in this sense is down the column. So again, there are a lot of different ways to use or display objects, and I think they're all quite pretty intuitive. If not, you can just ChatGPT, honestly. Like Streamlit is not a very hard language for you or for ChatGPT to interpret. All right, so besides data frames, we can also draw some plots. The chart data. Okay, let's just make some like random data here. Okay, and then let's take a look at what happens if I just call chart data, because it's a data frame, right? So as you expect, you just show you the data frame here. But I can wrap it in a line chart. So I call st.line chart. And then you can see here that it renders out the line chart for me. And it automatically styles itself also. I think they're defaults. And again, I'm pretty sure not just this function, but most of the st dot customizer function you can modify. Like you change the color, change the axis, change the whatever. So it's all pretty intuitive to use, and you can look it up in the API documentation if you need help, or you can just ask us. And what are cool things that oh yeah, you can even draw like a map if you provide it with area coordinates. Here I'm just going to create some like random map coordinates. Okay, this is not really streaming, but basically what I'm doing is I'm just creating like two columns of one of like random dots, and here I'm providing the latitude and longitudes, and I'm naming it also so that when I pass it to my st.map, you'll know how to render the coordinates. Yep, so hopefully you can see here that it renders out my coordinates properly that entered, and also has there's a random distribution. I'm not sure what distribution it is, but like randomly dispersed dots based on your location. And you don't have to, I mean, you don't have to use random dots. You can specify what kind of locations that you want if you wanted it to. And again, there's lots of like customizable options in just your map calls or your any other function calls itself. Okay, so I did all that in like I think 5 to 10 minutes, and so it's quite easy if you want to have a website that just displays a certain type of data. That's why it's quite popular with like DSA students, as Harry said. And there's not really that much. It's not really that difficult to use. And again, if you need help, you can always like I think ChatGPT knows about it because it's been a while for a while. So okay, let's talk about widgets. So again, there are quite a lot of widgets that if I can click off clicking, okay, never mind. Click. Okay, yes. So there's a lot of widgets. There's like a shit ton of them, and they offer you like ways of letting the user interact with the page log. And they're quite easy to use also. It's like one or two liners. You can customize these things also. And that's why it's better than, just actually coding out your app from scratch. And I know a few of you are doing Orbital. Streamlit is a pretty good place to start if you just want to have an idea of what your Orbital app looks like. I did it for mine, and I think my end product was better because of it. Right, so let's just talk about one of the widgets. Okay, let's do a slider. So I'm just going to assign X to st.slider, and at the bottom it just renders the slider with the name that you assign it to. So far this slider is pretty basic, just like 0 to 100. But again, with the slider you can customize like anything from like where you wanted to stop. Do you want it to be a range or point of value, your endpoint, how much do you want the slider to skip over every time you drag across the screen. And you can also assign basically the slider to do something. So let's say I do st.right squared is. What it does is it just displays at the bottom. This is just writing a value that I take from the function here. So you see if I drag it, yeah, the screen refreshes, and then you can see like the correct value that you pass to here. By the way, the screen is refreshing so much because again, that's what streaming does. Every time you not only when you yourself interact with the code, like you actually modify the code, when a user changes something on the screen will rerun it. If you can see, like there's a very short period of time where it says run it here. And the flashing doesn't look very nice, but with a little bit more complicated code, we can remove that. I'm just not gonna go that here because it's not important for what we want to talk about now. All right. Besides sliders, you can also let the users input text if they want. So I do a dot text input. Okay, wait, I'm gonna call me lagging. Yeah. Okay, so we let the user type the name here, and then here I'm gonna assign the value. Yeah, not value, sorry. I'm gonna assign the input here a key. I'll show you what that does in a second. Okay, so you can see that you have this empty box here, right? And it allows users to type in text input. So for example, I can type my name, Kaiser, and then that value is logged to Streamlit. And what the key is for, right, is that I can at any time retrieve the key that you assign to the that we have assigned here, which is the username, and we can display it as and when we want. So let's say I just display, I think, yeah. So I can take the input from the key and then write it or do whatever I want with it. So you see this st.session_state.name. Okay, I guess I should explain what st.session_state is. It's remember what I said whenever you change something or whenever the user changes a value on the screen, that the whole page will refresh. You're refreshing the page, but behind the scene there's the something called the session state, which persists until you actually reload the page. So this is helpful because there's certain things that you want to keep even with the user changing the values, right? Like you don't want the app to forget that the person typed their name in when you change the slider from like 0 to 10, or let's say something like that. And that's going to be important later on. But for now, let's look at just another widget. Maybe let's look at checkboxes maybe. So let's say here we want our checkbox to show something if it's checked and not show it if it's not checked. So we can just assign it to if condition. Here I say if st.checkbox. Okay, so what I did here is I put my st.checkbox in under if condition because it's a Boolean value. And then I gave it, I passed it a string also. So this string will be what's displayed next to the checkbox. And I made some chart data here. So this is just like a random data frame again. And if the checkbox is ticked, the value will become true, and then it will show the data to the users here, right? And then if you uncheck it again, it will disappear, right? Yep. Okay, normally it's not this laggy, it's just that I have a dual monitor setup, and I'm running a lot of things in the background. Okay. You can also use select box, which is basically you want the user to pick a certain option. So let's do that. I'm just gonna assign the variable name option to st.select box. And then I'm gonna pass in a string, and I'm also gonna pass in a column. If you remember from previously, this data frame df. Okay, what I'm doing here is basically I'm just using the previous data frame that I defined here, and I'm just taking the first column. So the first column is literally just a list of numbers from 1 to 4. And again, I can assign this a key. So let's see, key equals to select box. And now whatever the user picks again will be assigned to this key select box. And then I can do something like, oh, you selected option. And then it will display the corresponding number here. Okay, so this actually doesn't use the option key itself, but if you assign the key, both the option and the key select box from the session state will actually store the same thing. So you can use either one. Let's see. Key. Yeah, okay, I think there's some area. Is it? Oh, no, it displays correctly. Yeah, so this one again is from the st.session state select box. And again, when you select a different number, that one will change as well. Okay. There's also another option called multi-select if you want the user to be able to select multiple options at once, but I won't go through that because it's pretty basic also. Second last thing I'm gonna talk about is the sidebar. So you can add things to the sidebar without without much difficulty. Basically, you just assign a value. Let's say I want to add a select box to a sidebar instead. The only thing I need to do is I just add in this dot sidebar right in between my st and select box, and then I fill in what my select box is, and then streamlit will have the sidebar rendered here. So everything that you put here will be displayed in the sidebar. Again, you can pick as and when you like, or whichever option you want, like a normal widget as well. And again, you can add more than one. You can do like say add slider. Okay, so here I add a slider, and you can see that here I gave in two numbers, or like I give in a pair of values, so I can select a range of values here. But again, you can just basically put an unlimited number of widgets, or as in however many widgets you want in the sidebar as well. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, formatting. So we can also put things, not just widgets, in columns for better formatting. So let's just say that I want two different columns of things. Like I want to have some text on the side, and then I want to display some data. For now, we're just going to stick to using widgets for the sake of demonstration. But how you use the columns is you call st.columns, then you specify how many columns you want, and then you give a name to your column. I mean, you don't strictly have to do this, but it's good practice and it confuses you less. And you can add things to whichever column by just calling like left column, then like before the whatever widget that you want. Let's say I'm just going to add a button here and then go right down. You can see that it's kind of on the left. I collapsing the screen here, so you can't really see, but once I add a right column, it should be clearer. Okay, so you see when I go back to like normal dimensions, that the press me to, which I put on the right column, is actually in the right column. It's just that when I shrink the UI, it has to make some compromises. Okay. And then for you don't have to do this for every single widget. You can actually call with left or right column. So here I'm just gonna type with right column. Uh, okay. So yeah. Okay. So again, if you just call with right column, everything that you put under this indentation will be under the right column as well. So you don't have to specify left or right every time. Okay. So now we're gonna look at the last thing, which is tabs. Tabs are kind of like columns, but it's kind of hard to explain. But once I show it to you, you hopefully know what I'm talking about. So let's just create 3 tabs. Tab 1, tab 2. So st.tabs. Then I'm gonna name my tabs like cat, dog, mouse, something like that. And then now that I've defined the st.tabs and I have each of those tabs, right, I can put things in the tabs as and when I want to. So again, I can call with tab 1. I can put anything I want inside this tab. I can write the cat here or whatever. But let's see what that looks like. So you can see that it creates 3 different tabs with whatever you put here. And right now, tab 2 and tab 3 are empty because I haven't put anything yet. But it's basically like a mini column that you can display, and it only shows one column at a time. So again, there's a lot of different things that you can do with tabs. Like let's say you wanted to show like people like a sequence of images or like to explain something. Yeah. All right. So that's just like a few basic things. About Streamlit, and the rest is almost equally easy to use. And there's a lot of things that you can discover that are quite specific to your use case that I won't go through so much for the interest of time. But as promised, I'll show you the how to create a ChatGPT interface in under 30 lines of code. All right. So right now I'm just gonna create a blank file called GPT demo. I'll close this, stop this script. Then I'm gonna run this. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for that a second. All right, so I'm going to use some things that are not part of Streamlit, but it's quite intuitive to use also, which is basically the OpenAI interface and also the OS package, which is basically default. And if you don't know how to do any of those things, just Google it, and I think it's quite easy to use and understand. So I'm just going to import 2 packages. Okay. Next, I'm going to, well, let me just check this working. Okay, all right. Okay. All right. So what I did here is basically I've just initialized something called client, which is telling the OpenAI basically, hey, I need you to start instance. And what this line is doing here is that I'm taking my own private OpenAI key and I'm just passing it to the my Streamlit application here. All right. Then so there are a few things that there are a few nuances that you don't really consider when you're looking at a basic app or like a HTTP interface, which is what do you want to persist on the screen when you make a change? Because let's say if you don't have something stored in your session state, right, you actually the page will actually reload every time, and then every time you type a new message, it will disappear. So we don't want that, and we want to have uh we want basically everything we type and what the OpenAI client returns us to be persistent. We don't want to disappear. Okay, so here I forgot to put this thing called API key. Yeah, okay, so we just need to set up API key to the one I have in my environment. And so back to the point about persistent session state. So you want to have the model like at the session state at all times, and you don't want it to like reload every time the user refreshes the page or the app reruns. So we just set st.session state. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just passing this basically telling it that GPT 3.5 Turbo is the thing I want to store in the OpenAI model, and I don't want it to refresh unless I reload the page. But you also don't want this line to keep rerunning every single time, right? That the page refreshes. So what you can do is you can put it inside a if block. Yeah, activities. Yeah, and it will only set the session state if it's not already set. So that saves you some resources. And we want to do the same thing for our messages. So again, what I'm doing here is if the message session state variable is not present, we initialize like a empty list of string basically, so that we can store whatever we put in or whatever the ChatGPT app gives us back as somewhere so we can retrieve it. And let's now move on to like how we make the interface. So I'm just going to say for message. So we want each message to kind of be in its own element um, on the screen, and you don't want to like only display the most recent message, right? And you want to display all of them so you can scroll and see what you type. So how you can do that is you basically tell Streamlit that I want you to keep all the messages in a special container called st.chat message, which is something that which is like a pre-built thing that is done for you. That makes it very easy to use. So I'm just gonna say for messages in session state messages, I do with st.chat message. Just correct. Oh, it's role. Then write message content. Yeah. So basically for every message that it is basically we want to capture and write the content in like markdown. So it's not st.writer, it's markdown. Okay. Then we also want to have an input field for you to type your message. So um we can do that by doing this. Okay, what this line is basically doing is that it's checking for whether your chat input prompt exists basically. So has the user typed anything inside the chat message bubble that you saw previously? Then if it is, you will run you will append. I haven't wrote the code yet, but later on you will append the message that you input into the empty list that you initialized above. Okay, so now it's getting a bit laggy, and I don't know why my autocomplete keeps like trying to suggest me something weird. So I'm just gonna go to the one that is already in the demo. Okay, so let me see. Explain this. What happens here is that after the user fills in the message to send, which is basically like, oh, I've typed in a message that I want to ask the user. We tell streamlit to append what the content of the message to the empty list of messages, and then you display that as well because you also want to see the message that you type, right? And then the same thing is being done here for the LLM, so the AI. You capture the chat message from the role, which is the AI. You take in a streaming object. This is not part of streamlit, but it's part of OpenAI. But if you want to know how to do it, you can go and refer to the API. But basically, we capture the stream object and then we return it as a response to the st.writeStream. What writestream is it's a way of capturing like a streaming object. You know how OpenAI when it answers you, it doesn't answer you in one whole chunk, right? It streams out, and that's what a streaming object is. And the last thing that we do here is that we append the AI message to the basically chat message list as well. And the role an assistant here is that streamlit, you want to specify a role that the role is basically the header that appears before your message to tell you who is the one that actually wrote the message here. And again, the messages are formatted in a way such that the content can be retrieved using this tag. So this was about like 34 lines of code. And I'm just gonna run this to demo. Okay. Give me a second. Yep. So the output will look like this, and then here it's as if you are in the ChatGPT interface, so you can type a message like hello, and then OpenAI will return you again, and then you say like, and you're basically conversing with the ChatGPT agent lah. And again, this is the most basic form. You can always do attach extra things to it, like give your data, make it display other things like data widget, have it be able to render the things that ChatGPT returns you. But this is the most basic way of doing this. And again, it's quite easy to use. It's like there's so little code involved that I think anyone can do it lah. And all this code will be provided in the repo, so you can just check it out. Okay, so that's it for